Hi everyone, it's Sintang Mayumi. I'm back with 3 cards using one stamp set, or you can say one card kit collaboration with my crafty BFF Cherryl Sabado here on YouTube. We decided to use my monthly Hero Arts January 2019 card kit for this month's card collaboration. I really like this Hero Arts card kit because it's a versatile kit and you can use it for spring, summer, or you can also use it to make Mother's Day cards or birthday cards for friends and families. The card kit comes with 6x8 stamp set, coordinating dies, envelope seals, red and pink cardstock, and pink glimmer lacquer that I forgot to use on my cards. I used my zig markers to color the images and I went ahead and die cut them all. I colored and die cut more of these images because I needed more for my cards later on. For my first card, I die cut my panel with one of the die from Gina Marie Designs Scallop Stitch Circle die set, and I'm using 140-pound Strathmore watercolor paper. I will stamp all the flowers on the outer edge of the circle and using my Stamp Perfect to help me align the images and also to help me stamp them a few times if I need to. And the ink I'm using is Jenna K Amalgam ink. I color the flowers with my zig markers and I also use my Daniel Smith watercolors. And I did very simple coloring because these flowers are so tiny, so you don't have to go crazy coloring them. Zig markers are really good to use on tiny images like this because of the small brush tips they have. I also use my small brush when I use my Daniel Smith watercolors. I also colored this circle die cut with Dochrome Oceanic. I use one of the pattern paper from 6x6 Doodlebug Soap Honey paper pad and die cut the pattern paper with Gina Marie Designs Stitch Rectangle die set. I also die cut my colored panel with a smaller die from the same die set. I will adhere my panel on my mat using dry adhesive, and I did add a generous amount of dry adhesive because I use watercolor paper and I want my panel to be flat as possible on my card. I use one of the sentiment from the Hero Arts All Occasions Messages stamp set and again use my Stamp Perfect to help me align my sentiments straight on my panel. I used VersaFine Onyx Black ink and I will emboss it with clear embossing powder. I made sure my heat gun is hot before I bring it to my paper to eliminate warpage. For my card base, I used the pink cardstock from the card kit. I will score it in half and it will give me A2 size card base. And now I'm going to adhere this circle die cut back on the panel with liquid glue. And I will use my bone folder to make sure it is adhered good. And I will adhere the panel on my card base using dry adhesive. I use glossy accents to adhere my bike in the circle and place it a little bit on the lower part, and I'm using my tweezer here to align it perfectly on the paper. And I will also add a bunch of flowers and place it on top of the basket, and I just use foam tape to adhere it. For the embellishment, I used Rainbow Brights Diamond from Little Things from Lucy's cards and just scattered them on the card. And use my crystal katana to place them on top of the glossy accents. For the inside of the card, I place a few of the images, the milk can with tulips, watering can, and some of the flowers. I adhered them on the bottom inside the card. I also use my Jelly Roll Stardust pen to add shimmer on all of the flowers in the inside and outside the card. For the second card, I started with the stamp set from Altino called Birchland. I will use this tree here and one of the branches. I place my image on my Fiskars stamping tool and I will stamp my birch tree on each sides of the paper. And my panel is 140 pounds Strathmore watercolor paper. This tree stamp is long, so I will ink half of the tree and then ink half of the upper part of the tree and use my Memento Black marker to draw the lines. I will draw a curved line in between these two trees and it will be my line for my hanging plants. I first use my pencil and I will draw on top of the pencil using Memento marker and then change it with black Sharpie pen because my Memento marker is running out of ink. I'm going to color my background with sap green for the grass and Dochrome Oceanic for the sky. For the trees, I used transparent brown oxide. I didn't do anything special on coloring my background, I just added these colors. I die cut my panel with Geometry Designs Big and Little Chain Rectangle die set. I will secure my die on my paper so it doesn't move when I run it through my die cutting machine. I use red cardstock from the card kit for my card base and I will adhere my panel on top of the card base using liquid glue. And now I can add my images and arrange them the way I like it. The bicycle will be on the left side and the pots with flowers will be on the right side, and I use glossy accents to adhere all of the images. For the hanging plants, I use a strip of washi tape to temporarily hold them together and so they can stay in their place. Add glossy accents on the back and adhere them all together on the card. And carefully peel off the washi tape from the images. I was so slow doing this because the washi tape might peel off the colors on the images because I forgot to remove some of the stickiness from the washi tape. And I also add these flowers on the basket. For this panel, I colored it with the same colors I used on the card front and die cut it with the same die and adhere it in the inside of the card. I will now add a few of the images on the lower part of the panel. I use one of the sentiment from the ton called Timeless Icon stamp set. I will ink it up with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Stamp a couple of times to get good impression. I will also use my Jelly Roll Stardust pen to add shimmer on all of the flowers on the card. For my third card, I'm going to make a shape card using one of the large die from the card kit. I fold my watercolor paper in half and place my die on top of it, leaving a little space on the upper part of the die so it doesn't die cut all the way through and you will get a shape card. I place my stamp on the shape card and I'm using my Stamp Perfect again to align my stamp perfectly on the shape card. I will ink it up with VersaFine Onyx Black ink and emboss it with clear embossing powder and then melt all that powder with my heat tool. I will die cut the front of the card using this square die. I'm going to stamp another storefront so I can cut it later and adhere it on top of the shape card so it has dimension. And I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink and stamp it again to get good impression. Pour embossing powder on it and melt the powder with my heat tool. I use my blade cutter to remove the inside of this square piece and I will cut the outer excess paper using my scissor. And I will color it with my zig markers, and after the coloring is done, I will run my Memento marker on the white edges of the frame. Okay, so I have this clear acetate that I will adhere on the shape card so you can see the inside of the card and it will look like a real store. I color the clear acetate with my lightest blue Copic color that I have and blend it with the Copic blender. I die cut yellow pattern paper from my stash, and before I adhere my acetate on the card, I will adhere this piece first and use the open hole on the card. And so my paper will be perfectly aligned in the inside of the card. I will now adhere the acetate on the back of the piece that I fussy cut. And before I adhere that piece on the card, I will color the card front first with my zig markers. And now it's time to adhere that piece that we fussy cut on the card. I will add 2 of the hanging plants behind the acetate and just tuck them in between. And to make sure they will stay in their positions, I will use glossy accents. I will also add these squares. I don't know what you call them, but I adhere them using foam tape. And I also add 2 of the flower bouquets inside the card on the yellow pattern paper. For the sentiment, I use Hero Art's Dress Up stamp set. The sentiments from this stamp set are small, so it's perfect for the inside of the card. And the sentiment that I chose says, "I'm lucky to have you as a friend." And lastly, I will add some shimmer on the flowers using my Jelly Roll Stardust pen. And my cards are finished. I will leave Cheryl's links in my description box below so you can check her collaboration video. Please let me know which one is your favorite. As always, thank you so much for watching and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.